It started as just another passionate night on The Tonight Show until Leonardo DiCaprio heard a climate scientist say 5 words that made his voice break and transformed Studio 6B into a witness stand for humanity's greatest failure. I couldn't save my son. Studio 6B hummed with anticipation. The Roots were locked into their signature rhythm, the audience buzzed with excitement, and Jimmy Fallon was preparing for a conversation he knew would matter. Tonight's guest was Leonardo DiCaprio, not here to promote a film but to discuss his lifelong crusade against climate change, a battle he'd been fighting long before it was fashionable, long before it was profitable, long before the world was ready to listen. The iconic New York City skyline glittered through the studio's LED backdrop. But tonight it felt different, more urgent, more fragile, like looking at something beautiful that might not last much longer. What nobody knew was that sitting in row 11, seat 8, was a woman whose life had become evidence of everything Leo had been warning about for 20 years. Dr. Sarah Chen, 42 years old, sat perfectly still in a simple navy blazer, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. She was a climate scientist, had been for 18 years, published over 60 papers, testified before Congress, warned anyone who would listen that the hurricanes would get stronger, the storms would get deadlier, that time was running out. Nobody listened. Last year, Hurricane Helena hit the Florida coast with winds that shouldn't have been possible, winds that her models had predicted 5 years ago, winds that demolished her home in Sarasota, destroyed her laboratory, and killed her 8-year-old son James when their house collapsed. Sarah had spent her entire career trying to save children she'd never meet. But she couldn't save her own. The show opened with Jimmy's monologue, but tonight even the jokes felt weighted. When he introduced Leonardo DiCaprio, the applause was sustained and respectful, the kind that acknowledged they were about to discuss something that mattered. Leo walked onto the stage in a dark suit, looking less like a movie star and more like a man carrying the weight of an urgent message. He hugged Jimmy, waved to the audience, and settled into the guest chair with the focused intensity of someone who knew every second counted. "Leo, thank you for being here," Jimmy said. "I know you're not promoting a film tonight. You're here to talk about climate change, about the work your foundation has been doing. Where do we stand right now?" Leo's expression was grave. "Jimmy, we're running out of time, not in some abstract future sense, right now. The climate scientists have been telling us for decades what would happen. Stronger hurricanes, more intense wildfires, rising sea levels, and we're watching it happen in real time." He leaned forward, his voice carrying urgency. "The tragedy is that we know how to fix this. We have the technology, we have the resources. What we're missing is the will to act before it's too late. And every day we delay, people pay the price." As Leo spoke, his eyes scanned the audience with characteristic intensity. That's when he noticed her. A woman in row 11, not crying but frozen, staring at him with an expression that combined recognition, grief, and something else. Accusation, maybe. Or just exhausted disappointment. Leo's rhythm faltered slightly. Something about her stillness, her scientist posture, the way she held herself like someone who'd been proven right in the worst possible way. "Actually, Jimmy," Leo said, his voice shifting, "I'm looking at someone in the audience who seems very affected by this conversation, the woman in row 11 in the navy jacket. Are you a scientist?" Sarah hadn't expected to be called on. Her breath caught. Slowly she stood, aware of 300 pairs of eyes turning toward her. "Yes," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "Dr. Sarah Chen, climate scientist, 18 years. Leo nodded, recognizing something in her bearing. "You've been trying to warn people." "For 18 years, Sarah repeated. Nobody listened." The studio went quiet. Jimmy stood up from behind his desk, sensing this was about to become something more than an interview. "What's your field?" Leo asked gently. "Hurricane intensification. Specifically, how warming ocean temperatures create stronger, deadlier storms." Sarah's voice was clinical, professional, the way you talk when emotion would break you. "I've published extensively, testified before Congress 3 times, presented data showing that Category 5 hurricanes would become more frequent, more destructive." She paused. "I predicted Hurricane Helena 5 years ago. Published the model, the wind speeds, the likely trajectory, everything." Leo's face had gone pale. "Hurricane Helena, that was last year, Florida. Sarasota, Sarah said quietly. That's where I lived, where my lab was, where my home was. Oh my God, Jimmy whispered. Sarah's professional composure cracked. I spent 18 years trying to save people I'd never meet, children I'd never know, future generations who deserved a livable planet. I wrote papers, I gave talks, I showed the data, and nobody listened. Her voice broke. And then Helena came. Exactly when my models said it would. Exactly as strong as I predicted. And it destroyed my house while my family was inside. Leo stood up slowly, his face transformed by horror and understanding. Your son, he said softly. Not a question, a recognition. Sarah nodded, tears finally coming. James, he was 8 years old. He wanted to be a marine biologist. He loved dolphins. He loved the ocean. She smiled through her tears. He didn't understand why Mommy was always sad about climate change. He said, Mommy, why are you worried? The grown-ups will fix it. The studio was completely silent except for Sarah's voice. But the grown-ups didn't fix it. We didn't listen to the scientists. We didn't act. And my son died in a storm I predicted 5 years ago. A storm that didn't have to be that deadly. A storm that was supercharged by warming waters we could have prevented. Leo walked off the stage without hesitation. He moved through the audience towards Sarah, and when he reached her, he took her hands in his. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. You tried, Sarah said. You've been trying for years, but we needed everyone to try, and they didn't. Jimmy joined them, tears streaming down his face. Dr. Chen, Jimmy said, can you tell us about James? What was he like? Sarah's face lit up through her grief. He was brilliant, funny, kind. He made these elaborate drawings of underwater cities where humans and dolphins lived together. He said when he grew up he was going to invent technology to clean the oceans. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and showed them a picture. A bright-eyed boy with his mother's smile holding a stuffed dolphin. This was taken 2 days before Helena hit. He was helping me pack up my research to evacuate. He asked me, Mommy, if we know the hurricane is coming, why don't we just tell it to go away? And I told him, Sarah's voice broke completely. I told him that we'd made the planet so warm that the hurricanes didn't listen to us anymore. Leo was openly crying now, not bothering to hide it. What was in your lab? What did you lose? 20 years of research, climate models, hurricane data, but mostly, Sarah took a shaky breath. Mostly I lost the ability to believe that data matters, that science matters. Because I had all the data. I had all the evidence. I showed everyone what would happen, and it happened anyway. Leo turned to address the studio, still holding Sarah's hand. Everyone needs to understand something. This isn't a story about the future. This is happening now. Dr. Chen isn't talking about what might happen to someone someday. She's talking about what happened to her son last year. Because we didn't listen, because we prioritized short-term profit over long-term survival, because we let climate change become political instead of treating it like the crisis it is. He looked back at Sarah. You said nobody listened? I failed you. We all failed you. We failed James. Sarah shook her head. You've been fighting, but one person can't change the world alone. We need everyone. Jimmy spoke up. Dr. Chen, what would you want people to know? What should we be doing? Sarah's scientist voice returned, stronger now. The data is clear. We need to transition away from fossil fuels. We need to invest in renewable energy. We need to stop treating climate change like it's someone else's problem because it's here. It's killing people right now. It killed my son. She looked directly at the camera. If you're a parent watching this, understand that your children will face what James faced. Stronger storms, deadlier heat waves, rising seas. Unless we act now, not tomorrow, not next year, now. Leo made a decision in that moment that would define this interview forever. Dr. Chen, your research was destroyed. Your life's work. Yes, Sarah confirmed. I want to rebuild it. I want to fund a new lab. The James Chen Climate Research Center, fully funded, whatever you need, because your work matters, because you were right, because we should have listened. Sarah's eyes widened. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep fighting. Say you'll keep telling the truth. Say you'll help us save the children who are still here. Leo's voice was fierce now. "We failed, James, but we don't have to fail everyone." But there was one more thing. Leo pulled out his phone. "Dr. Chen, I'm going to do something right now. I'm going to call someone." He dialed a number while the studio watched. "Hello, Senator? It's Leo. I'm on The Tonight Show right now with a climate scientist named Dr. Sarah Chen. I need you to listen to what she has to say, and I need you to act on it." He handed Sarah the phone. For the next 5 minutes, while cameras rolled and the audience sat in stunned silence, Dr. Sarah Chen explained to a United States senator exactly what needed to happen to prevent more Jameses from dying in storms that science predicted, but policy ignored. When she handed the phone back to Leo, her hands were steadier. "Thank you," she whispered, "not for the lab, for making someone with power actually listen." Jimmy addressed the audience, his voice thick with emotion. "I think we just witnessed something important. Dr. Chen has been trying to get people to listen for 18 years. Tonight we listened. The question is, what do we do tomorrow?" Leo answered, "Tomorrow we act. The James Chen Climate Research Center will open within 6 months. Dr. Chen's research will be published freely, no paywalls, no gatekeeping, because information that can save lives shouldn't be locked away." He turned to Sarah one more time. "James wanted to save the oceans. Let's make sure his legacy does." Sarah nodded, tears streaming freely now. But they weren't just grief tears anymore. They were something else. Purpose, maybe. Hope that her son's death wouldn't be meaningless. "One more thing," Leo said. "Every scientific paper published by the James Chen Center will include James's drawing of his underwater city, because dreams matter, children matter, and we owe it to them to build the future they imagined." Dr. Sarah Chen returned home that night carrying something she'd lost in the wreckage of Hurricane Helena, the belief that speaking truth to power could actually change something, that her son's death, while senseless and preventable and tragic, could become a catalyst for the action she'd been demanding for 2 decades. The James Chen Climate Research Center opened 6 months later in a building designed to withstand Category 6 hurricanes, a storm category that officially didn't exist yet but that Dr. Chen's models predicted would within 20 years. The first study published included James's crayon drawing of dolphins and humans living together, printed on the opening page as a reminder of what they were fighting for. Leonardo DiCaprio kept his promise. But more than that, Dr. Chen's appearance on The Tonight Show sparked something unexpected. Scientists across the country began speaking more publicly about their personal stakes in climate change. Not just data, but stories. Not just models, but meaning. And while one interview couldn't reverse climate change, it changed the conversation. Because sometimes the most powerful argument isn't more data, it's the story of what happens when we ignore the data we already have. It wasn't just late-night television that night. It was a reckoning.